everybody. This is Tiffany Marie Davis. Welcome back to Tiff Talks podcast. I'm so excited to have one of my dear friends and, our co-host as well. We have Miss Ferris C here to always bring it in for that laugh and also bring it down to some reality. That's why we love Ferris. And I'm so excited to bring on our dear guest, Miss Nathalia Melo. What's your new last name?
Wilson. We kept this simple. My husband had a very straightforward last name.
I love that. So if you guys don't know who Nathalia Melo is, she's one of the top competitors of the IFBB Bikini Pro division. Her and I competed together. She was always the top three. She actually won Miss Olympia. How many times, Nathalia?
I won the Olympia once because I hung my heels shortly after that.
Yeah.
And I've placed top three basically in most Arnold Classics and Olympias as well.
Awesome. You guys, this is such a treat for all of you guys. And I'm so excited to talk about, the relationship that we've built over the years. And also, we're going to talk about hanging up our heels. Like she said, it was not an easy decision. It never is. And we're also going to talk about how she transitioned from competitor to lifestyle to getting married to also becoming a mother. And so, Nathalia, let's rewind. Okay, let's go to blast from the past. Let's go. You ready?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's go. So here's what we're going to do. Let's rewind 2011. I feel like that's when it was really, fresh in our brains and our minds. And you were just someone that I remember looking up to in our world. It was you, Amanda Latona, Diana Dahlgren and I came in at the same time. We had those same attributes. And I just remember, you were incredible. So I want to know, your back end story with your competing so that our listeners can know exactly who you are if they've never heard of you. Mm-hmm. But also I want you to talk about from your competing days and then, how you transition into, I'm hanging up my heels. So I would love for you to share that part of your story.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. We've known each other for a very long time, so I'm actually excited to catch up live on record. So I started competing in 2009. That's when the bikini division first came. I'm originally from Brazil, so kind of rewind a little bit before that. I've always been to working out and all of that. And a funny thing, a little parenthesis, funny story. I started working out when I was 14. But in Brazil, my mom was never a fan of the gym, but I was. And in Brazil, gym memberships are very expensive. At 14, my only source of income was allowance. So in order for me to be able to pay for my gym membership, I had to save my allowance for a month and a half. So I could only go to the gym every other month. And then every time that I could go to the gym, I would spend 3 hours in the gym just because I wanted to take full advantage of my fee. Then I moved to the US and then I kind of felt in a bit of a unhealthy lifestyle. And then around 2009, I felt like I needed something to give me a purpose. I needed something to kind of give me back on track. And then somebody in the gym was like, hey, you should look up this new division in the IFBB, because the idea that I always had of bodybuilding competitions was muscles and and I'm like, I'm not sure that's what I want to look like. I think it's but it ain't my jam. And then
that's what I think about when you say that. I'm like, the big muscles. So yeah,
that's kind of the image that I had. And then people start showing me pictures of some competitors that were doing bikini. But remember, at the time, bikini had just turned pro that year.
Right.
So there weren't many athletes. And at the time, a lot of people don't know this, but at the time, even the posing was how is the posing? And they're like, oh, just go on the stage and turn around. And I'm like, what do you mean turn around? And then we just basically had to get on stage and wing it. So a lot of the things that the girls are doing now is the stuff that we created.
Exactly. And for the record, you guys, if you don't know who Nathalia Melo is and someone says turn around, it's you just start bowing. You're like, all right, girl, turn around.
Oh, I love it.
love it. Thanks. And then I'm like, all right, what do you mean turn around? And I'm like, okay, let me do my thing. Flip hair, wink, ooh, you know?
True story, guys. True story.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and then I saw the evolution of the sport, and I was like, it was amazing to be part of it for the time that I was, but I feel like it got to a time in life that I felt like, because I'm the type of person that if I commit to something, you can bet that I'm going to be consumed by that one thing that I am committing to, because I like, and this is going to sound horrible, but I'm just a very competitive person. Like second place is the first loser. So if I'm gonna commit to something, I'm gonna commit to something to win it. Yeah. So whenever I was in prep, I didn't even allow my mom to come visit me from Brazil when I was in prep, because I didn't want any distractions. So she knew when I was prepping for a show, and she wouldn't even mention coming visit me. And the same when I started dating long distance with my husband, yeah. I was like, don't come visit me, and I'm not going to come visit you when I'm prepping for a show, because it's on.
Wow, that's true commitment. Holy crap.
Ferris, didn't we talk about this prior to? I said, I want to dig into this part because exactly what you're saying right now is competing is the absolute most selfish sport that there is on the planet. And I don't care what anybody says to try and say different. Yeah. You know, with Tiff Talks, like we said, we don't even have to say, let's get real. This is all about real life, real events, and real talk, you know, and this is where we're being real. It's the most selfish sport. It's you, yourself, and I. And, you know, Arnold says it perfectly in his documentary. It doesn't matter if your father just died, you still have to get up and do your cardio in the morning. Yeah. You know, it's the reality of it. And so I want you to like capitalize on that and really let our listeners know, like it's you against you, you know, nobody else can distract you. So I want you to definitely go into that a little bit more.
Oh, I cannot even tell you how many times I've cried on top of a treadmill. Doing my cardio, and like the tears, like, and another funny story here. So one day I was leaving the gym and I was eating that dried ass chicken.
And bag.
Out of a Ziploc bag. So I'm leaving the gym and I'm eating that dry chicken. I start choking on it, and then I start crying in my car. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? And I'm like, just burst out crying. And then this guy who knew me from the gym sent me a message on Facebook. And he's like, are you okay? I saw you crying in your car. Anyway, so that's the kind of commitment that you have. And like, I would have friends' birthdays, I would have celebrations, and I would say no, because I didn't want to put myself in a position where people would be doing things or eating things or drinking things that wouldn't go with my goal. They didn't align with my goal at the time. Yeah. And I would do it all over again, because I do think that you get to the level that I got competing, that's what needed to be done at that time, at that point in time. And I find that discipline, commitment, and resilience has taught me a lot about myself. And I have been able to transfer a lot of the things as far as discipline goes, and as far as like believing that I can accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. I've been able to transfer those lessons to other parts of life, especially when it comes to business and like personal life as well, and parenting even.
Yeah, so let's get on to that, because that is a 360. You know, it is what was the toughest challenge transitioning from competing to a lifestyle and then motherhood? Was there any like resentment? Was there any, you know, like, you know, let's talk about that.
So whenever I decided to stop competing, the reason that I decided to stop competing is, and I still remember the show was the Arnold Classic in 2014. And I remember walking in that venue and something told me, I'm like, this is the last time I'm going to step on stage. And I just knew, because I woke up that morning and I didn't have that fire in me to even put my makeup on. So, I never had pressure, because my husband comes from a professional sports background. My husband played professional rugby for 15 years of his life. He represented his country. So him and I were very much on the same page when it came to competing, but but I knew that my life was much more than just that obsession, because it becomes a little bit of an obsession with competing. So I kind of felt growing out of me. And then whenever I got to the Arnold, I was like, you know what, I know that this is me done. Then I go back, I had a conversation with my husband, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm done. And so there wasn't a lot of resentment, because it was my personal choice. And I was able to leave, still placing like third at the Olympia, third at the Arnold Classic, third, I can't remember, third, fourth, something like that. So it's not that I left like because I placed that last. I was still there in a competitive range of maybe claiming my title back, but I just didn't want to. I felt like I had grown out of it. And I preferred living on top than to be holding on to something that was no more. I knew that there was more to life. I wanted to start a family with my husband. I wanted to be present. I wanted to be able to go on date nights with him. I wanted to go for Sunday roast at my in-laws' house and not have to ask for different foods, you know? I wanted to have a normal life.
Man, I definitely feel, I mean, this is getting home for me. I have chills. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror right now.
Yeah.
I'm with you, girl. And I love that, you know, and really transitioning into a real life is foreign to us after that, you know, and like you said, it becomes that obsession. And so now, you know, I love that we look at this back, like on more of a learning versus a resentment, you know, and it taught you a lot, you know, watching you now and watching what you've built, you know, you look to me just as incredible as you did when you stepped on stage.
Thank you.
And, you know, I want to know, like, how do you juggle being a mother to two small children now? Cause you know, we're fast forwarding just a tad, but you know, from that state of, okay, now I'm getting my husband back. Now I'm getting my life back. Now I'm going into a lifestyle where I feel good and I can stop saying no to these, you know, social events. Now transitioning into a mother, how did you juggle being a mother to two small children in the midst of all of this?
So I think that before we talk about that, I think we kind of have to rewind a little bit, because it was a huge transition to go from like that competitive mindset, chicken and broccoli and sweet potatoes and I have to do cardio 3 hours a day, every day, get swole. And
I'm telling you right now, that is no.
And that's the thing. Like it was a process of learning. Like I had to unlearn everything that I had learned during my competitive career and create something a little bit more sustainable. Then my husband and I started trying to have a baby. And whenever I felt pregnant, I think that was kind of like the biggest lesson, because being a competitor in where your body is your tool of work. Because whenever you are in the fitness industry, I mean, you have all these bodybuilders and men who have kids, but it doesn't affect their career. But whenever you're talking about a woman, that is my tool of work. The way I look is my tool of work. So from a business aspect, I feel like I was very smart, if I can give myself props on that, that I never relied solely on sex appeal to build my name. And that's actually something that I always was very outspoken about, because I feel like I had my husband, I had my boyfriend, and I even had a coach who came to me and told me to not post pictures of my husband, then boyfriend, because you wouldn't be good for, quote unquote, my brand.
Oh man.
But I knew in me that like I wanted people to be part of my life and know me for who I am, not because I was a nice set of tits and ass. Excuse my language.
No, go.
So I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to post pictures of my boyfriend because he's part of my life. I'm going to post like unflattering pictures. Like this coach wouldn't post pictures of me out of prep because it wasn't good PR. I'm like, but that's not real.
Yeah.
So I've always been very outspoken about reality and being me. So I feel like Nathalia Melo as a brand has been built on being real.
Yeah.
So I feel like the transition from competitor to life was a lot smoother because I had I had a path and I had a core value of my brand that regardless of being a competitor or being just a fitness professional, it had been built on something that was more than just sex appeal.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was one of the things that enabled me, that whenever I got pregnant, I was able to talk about my struggles because I was struggling, because I was seeing significant changes in my body. And again, being somebody from the fitness industry who always had control of everything that was happening in my body, during pregnancy, you have none. Like, I was a psycho pregnant lady. I don't know how my husband didn't divorce me, because I would have divorced my ass.
I can definitely relate to that. I kind of want to touch on what you said there. You said that when you got pregnant, it was so much different because, you know, being a competitor, and I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, is when you're a competitor, you literally know exactly how your body reacts to everything, how it feels, what's happening. This might be too much for some people, but I mean, I'm sure you knew exactly when your body was going to have a bowel movement. Like, the whole thing is so strategic. And then becoming pregnant, it was like a new beast. It was like, whoa, like, you knew, did you know when you were pregnant? I kind of heard you say it. Did you know like exactly when you got pregnant and when your body was going to changing into that?
I don't, what do you mean?
So when you got pregnant, did you know that you were pregnant and something was different?
Yeah. Like 100%.
And from a competitor standpoint, I mean, knowing that you know exactly what you're doing all the time, what you're feeding yourself, transitioning to that lifestyle to where it's like you're retraining, and then it's all of a sudden you're like, oh, this feels a lot different.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that you was more like the physical changes that you're going through and not having control of your emotions. I was literally insane, and I was trying to hold on to something and control something that is uncontrollable. You are going to gain weight. You are going to be tired. You are going to not be able to perform at the same level as you were before. And I think that that's where a lot of people miss the mark, especially when it comes to pregnancy. They try to like, oh yeah, beast mode, blah, blah. But pregnancy is not a time for beast mode.
Right.
The time to respect your body and what it's doing. And that's kind of why whenever I found out that I was pregnant, knowing that I had the platform that I had at the time, I was like, you know what, I'm a personal trainer. But as trainers, me and Tiff, I don't know if you are like, I knew that I didn't have enough knowledge about pregnancy and postpartum training. So I started to at the time I lived in Ireland, because I moved to Ireland to be with my then husband. I flew to England to take a course in pre and postnatal training because I wanted to make sure that I was giving the correct information to my audience. And from that, it just started to kind of develop into, oh, this is cool. And there is so little information about all of that. And that's kind of when my mind started to open and I started to be a bit more accepting of the changes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until my second pregnancy, which quote unquote happened 4.5 months after I had my first child.
I didn't realize they were that close.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's intense. So it's almost talking like 2 years of crazy going on. You're mentally, emotionally, at times unstable. I can relate to that so much. And I don't know, and excuse me, you have a boy and a girl, or 2 girls, or?
A boy and a boy and a girl.
Okay. So the boy was first.
And then Chloe, and then my daughter. And so the second time around, I was like, I saw what my body was able to do, and I was much more accepting of the process. And I feel like that's the problem, especially as a pre and postnatal coach now. This is something that I see a lot of times with former competitors who get pregnant, that they have this obsessive mindset of like bounce back and do all the things and do like 3 weeks postpartum trying to go for sprints because they want to lose the 50 pounds that took them 10 months to gain. And I think that this is one of the biggest things within my platform and within my programs, is to kind of like educate women about all the changes that goes into their bodies, and that just because you can do something, it doesn't mean you should. Yeah, you can run at 3 weeks postpartum. By all means, you have 2 sets of legs. You can also try to run after having an ACL surgery. Does it mean you should? Certainly not. So and because the topics around it, like we're talking about vagina and we're talking about pelvic floor muscles and we're talking about all of that, women, a lot of
exercise.
Yeah, a lot of women are a bit like, they're a bit embarrassed to talk about peeing themselves when they jump. And if we keep on making this kind of conversation taboo and not educating women about the impacts that their choices are going to have long term, if they try to do too much too soon in the beginning of their postpartum journey, we need to educate women about that.
Wait a second. So it's not, I mean, I'm definitely prepared to pee when I jump because I do that now and I'm not even pregnant.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I experience it. And I mean, I'm going to be super straightforward. I went to one of those bouncy places with the trampolines.
Oh, you probably peed yourself left and right.
I got on there. Okay, you guys. And I was jumping and I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, trampoline. Like as a kid, you just love it. I was like, oh my gosh. And I got off immediately and everyone's like, oh my gosh, are you going to jump? And I was like,
no, I'm fine. I'm all right.
Everything is wet here. So, I'm going to sit right over here. Thankfully it was the winter time. I had a sweater, I wrapped it around. I mean, the level of embarrassment, but the reality of this is what it is. You know, like you said, I wasn't educated, so I didn't prepare for any of those things. And that's what happens when I go on a trampoline.
But that's the thing that I feel like we need to talk about, because if people is still kind of like, when you talk about peeing when you jump, and whenever you say like your vagina, like your insides might come out of your vagina if you do too much too soon, it's a reality. Mm-hmm. And like, it is my job as an influencer, as a fitness professional, to educate women about their choices. And one thing that I see very often, as I was saying in the beginning of the conversation, is that with the bikini competitors, especially, and former competitors, I get messages all the time. I have a program for mom. In fact, tomorrow I'm scheduling a call with a lady who is in my membership program because she's like, oh, this workout is too easy. I'm 5 weeks postpartum. Because they want to do all the things. They want to lose 30 pounds in like 2 weeks. And in the education aspect of it is what is needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that we actually took it back a little bit, because that's a very, very important message for women across the board. Now we're taking it from a very extreme, obsessive, always being in control of everything that happens inside of our bodies, to the point we're even kicking people out of our lives until we're ready to bring them back in. And then here you are, pregnant, complete loss of control. You're just naturally an alpha by nature. So the fact that, now everything is completely out of control, you had to just succumb to all of it and just surrender is really what you had to do, is surrender to your own body. And, I can totally relate, in all of those areas, even when, it's something where when we look at what you're doing now, is you've done it all through experience and through those obsessive traits, like moving that towards motherhood. Like, that's impressive. And it is important for women to know that, like, hey, you're not going to lose 30 pounds out of the gate. Like, some people might be genetically gifted. Some people, are not, and it's a constant, yo-yo. And that is very similar to competing, but realizing that this yo-yo of life, like there's a life inside of you that you have to surrender to and take that hat off of, okay, you can't go out and jump on a treadmill and go, like you said, 3 miles. It's like if someone tore their ACL, you could try up your milk supply. You could, strip the nutrients for you and your baby. Like there's just so many things that you could do more damage to in the process. So I love that you're in a space now where you probably have learned through, like you said, you were psychotic, and I'm like, man, I relate to Nathalia a lot. And like just preparing myself now, like if she was psychotic, oh no.
Oh, I honestly was like a crazy pregnant lady. I honestly look at my husband. I'm like, you deserve a trophy. Like, you put up with my crazy ass like for 2 solid pregnancies back to back. You are my hero.
It was like 2 years though.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's like no stop.
It's like you had the boy, and then it's like you're going through that, and you're having postpartum. You're enjoying that moment, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're pregnant again. Did you notice a difference in your hormones between your boy and your daughter?
Do you want the honest answer?
Of course. That's
no idea, because everything was a blur. Like the first 2 years of both of their lives. And here's the funny thing. So at the time we lived in Ireland, and we moved to Texas where we live now. Whenever my husband retired from playing professional rugby, we moved to Texas. Wait for this. My daughter was 9 months, and my son was a year and 9 months, 10 months. And we basically just moved our stuff and off we go to Texas. And then we came to Texas, and I was launching my business. We were moving. My husband was working 12 hours a day, and we knew nobody in Texas. So that was interesting.
Wait, what part of Texas are you in right now?
I am in Bikini, in the DFW Metroplex, just north of Dallas.
Okay. Speaking of Dallas, like all of our good friends now live there. We have Amanda Latona, we have Tana over there. I think Paige
Chelsea.
Who?
Chelsea Sanchez.
Oh yeah. Oh no, yeah.
Chelsea. Yeah.
I love her. She's always so like perfect, like put together perfect. She's in the beauty now, right?
She's still perfect and amazing. Yeah. Love her.
I love all of them. Great women. I'm actually so excited to expand on what we're all doing now, because it's what we've learned in competing is there's just nothing like it, right? There's the extreme side, like you had said, and now transitioning into real life, it taught us something different. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all gritty. We all work, we'll go from 5 a.m. till 2 a.m. if we have to. It's like you said, it created, second place is in a sense, last place, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you apply it to business now, is kind of what I'm seeing. And I look at all of us, that's exactly what happened. The top competitors, the girls, top 10s, top 5s in regular shows, top 10s in, Arnold's and Olympias, that was all us. Yeah. So when you look at our lives now and how we've applied what we've learned, transitioned through, and I know that at times that we can get wrapped into that world, and like you said, you never showed your tits and ass, which I'm grateful you did it. You stayed true to you. So now transitioning from that lifestyle, now applying to your business, sounds like you've learned a lot. Now going into your business, what would you say was your biggest learning transitioning from, now competing, married, 2 babies, you're inspiring women, I've just seen you grow so much with helping women in their motherhood chapters, especially. With all of that being said, how do you apply day one to now?
So I think that to answer that, I have to go back a little bit. And because a lot of people ask me, do you prep competitors? Despite winning the Olympia, despite being a top competitor, I have never prepped one competitor in my professional life. The reason for that is because I was never passionate about it. I didn't enjoy it. I don't feel like I never had the curiosity or the drive to learn more about it in order to help other people. It just wasn't my jam. I enjoyed competing, but I didn't enjoy coaching competitors. I coached posing. I did a lot of fitness seminars, but it was very general fitness seminars, which I've traveled to over 30 countries doing seminars about fitness. And then whenever I felt pregnant, it was almost like that is my jam.
Yeah.
It just lit me up. And
it's like, at first you were like, I lost complete control. I don't like what's happening. I don't want to do this. What's happened? Like done to that's my jam. That's my passion.
But here's the thing. I lost control, and that loss of control made me determined to learn why.
Love it.
What was happening with my body?
That's powerful.
Why was I not having control over it? And I'm just a curious and I feel like whenever you're pregnant, you have a social media presence, you almost become everybody's property. And everybody feels entitled to have an opinion on what you should and shouldn't be doing. So I would post a video of myself doing an exercise, and like dickhead would come and be like, "Oh my God, you're harming your baby." And
trolls, we call them trolls.
Yes. Being who I am as a person, I don't like to lose an argument. So I was like, I need to learn exactly everything as to why it is okay for me to exercise and the applications of it. And that was originally like, I just wanted to know so I could give correct information and I could provide people with value. And the more I start to learn about it and the more I start to talk to women, the more I realized about how little information there is out there for the pre and postnatal population. So it just kind of like all fell into place. And the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to know about it. And the more I spoke with moms, the more I realized how they were like, I don't understand what's happening. And they needed somebody to tell them that it was going to be okay. Yeah. It is fine. You're going to be fine. This is what's happening. This is what needs to be done. Just like let it go a little bit. And I feel like coming from a very like top level competitive background, that gave me the authority to be like, it is okay to put on weight during pregnancy. It is okay that you don't have a six-pack when you leave the hospital. I didn't have a six-pack. I looked like I was still 6 months pregnant. So I feel like coming from a top-level competitor to looking like I did during pregnancy and after pregnancy made it easier for women to be like, oh, okay, it happened to her too, so I'm not broken.
Yes, that's huge.
That's really, really huge. I'm glad that you said that and that you're in, you know, that niche now in that realm and you've come from competing. I mean, you and Tiffany, I sit here and I listen to you guys and I'm just like, wow, like what a different world it really is. And, you know, going from your business, knowing that that was your jam, I think that's incredible for people to know that, you know, that is what it is and, you know, it is okay. And I wish I had you when I was pregnant to tell me that it was okay. And I think for, you know, women out there that are thinking about getting pregnant or are pregnant or just had a baby, it's really important for you guys to listen to this because it is okay to just go through it. So I really appreciate that just from, you know, an outsider that's never competed. I think that's great what you're doing.
And I feel, just to add to that, and thank you so much for that, I think that also there is this mindset, and it's almost like a societal kind of thing that women are told that once they are pregnant and they have kids, their body's done and their career is over, and that like there is just this scaremongering kind of mindset. And like that, I would say that 9 out of 10 clients that I get who are planning on get pregnant, they come to me because they are scared. Yeah. Or some of them are like, I don't even know if I want to have a kid because I love my job and I don't want to lose it. I love the way I look and I don't want to lose it. So I think that showing women that, yes, your body might look a bit different, but different doesn't mean that it's better or worse. It just means that it's different. My body is different than before, but I love it. I love the way I look now, and call me cocky, call me whatever you want. I'm proud as hell of what my body has done and what it's still doing for me.
I mean, I'm proud as hell. I'm on a daily basis. I'm like, she looks incredible.
I think it's beyond.
I
the
looked at her
appearance.
pictures. She looks great, you guys. I mean, you wouldn't think that this woman had 2 kids.
But I think it's also beyond the appearance, it's accepting the things that you can change. Like I have some skin on my stomach, and you know what? It's just part of it.
Yeah, and you display that very well, that self-love, and it oozes through you, and I think that's why your body is responding that way, is because what you are telling your body and what you're believing. It's all about mindset.
Yeah.
So, my favorite thing is what you said, and I'm going to ask you just 2 more questions, and then I want you to tell everybody, where everyone can find you, and we'll go into that here in a little bit. But one thing is a lot of the times people tell you that you can't do things with kids. And that for me is probably, and I call these nerds, these little things that get in your head. It creates this because I don't have biological children yet, and so when they've told me, when you have a kid, your career, how are you going to do it with this? How are you going to travel? How are you going to do this? And I'm like, you strap that little guy up and you go. Like, what do you mean?
That's
right.
And
it's like, I see women like you that you make it happen. And we have a lot of friends that have children and they just make it happen, and they run 6- and 7-figure businesses. So what's one piece of advice you can give all mothers out there that feel like, they're going to have a child and it's doomsday because of their naysayers or people in their lives that are trying to pull them down? I want to know, what's your one piece of advice that you would give all mothers out there in that area?
Know your worth. They'll know your worth. If you are a good professional, I think, going back a little bit, I think a good example is I've been with Better Bodies, which is a fitness clothing company, for 10 years. We've been together from when I was competing, from when I won the Olympia, from when I stopped competing, from when I got married, from when I had 1 kid, from when I had another kid. But I have been part of that brand for such a long time because I have been able to create value throughout all different stages of my life. And I feel like whenever you know your worth and what you have to bring to the table, you are put in a position to be like, leave it or take it. As in,
yes.
you don't want to, I have kids. This is my schedule. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And whenever you start to bow to people who expect you to drop your kids and come to them, then I don't think that they are worth my time. If anybody expects me to leave my kids behind, or for me to stop being with my kids so I can, check an email for them, they are not worth my time, because I know my worth. I know the worth of my family, and I know what I can bring to the table with or without my kids.
Love it.
I know who I am as a person, as a professional. And I think that was the biggest mindset shift for me. And also to be able to pivot. Learning to pivot. Before I had kids, I was traveling nearly every weekend to do seminars. I've done seminars in freaking Siberia, in Moscow, South Africa, Australia, Norway, Denmark, you name it. I've been there.
Yep.
And so whenever I had kids, I wasn't able to do that. And that was kind of like a pivotal moment in my career. And I was like, okay, so what's happening next? Then that's when I took my business online, because I wanted to be present to my kids. And I knew that I had something to bring to the table, regardless of being able to be there in person or online.
Amazing.
I love that. I love that. So for women out there, I want you to be able to inspire. I know you're here to inspire the nation. You're here to
inspire the nation.
Locally. Yeah. You are, because that's very important for women to know, is know your worth, put your foot down, create boundaries, set those, fundamental non-negotiables immediately, And I mean, personally, mine's going to be God, family, business, and as you and I can relate, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but sometimes that business moves up and you have to push it down, right?
Yeah.
And it's trying to manage that. I don't believe in anything is balanced. You can try.
Yeah. And I know, you know what, there are going to be days that you are going to have to work through the night. Done that several times. There are going to be days that I'm going to have to take phone calls with my kids crawling on top of me and screaming, "Mommy!"
Yeah.
You know, but, and another thing that I would like to add to that is that I feel, and I've done a recent post on my social media about that. Women tend to treat their like partners or the father of their children as if they were like mentally and physically disabled. Like they don't give the responsibility of the child to the father of the child. And I'm like, no, like he created the child with you. It is his responsibility too.
Yes,
And,
preach it, preach.
and you know, like
Preach.
that is something that drives me a bit insane. Oh, I don't have time to go to the gym because my husband won't stay with the kids. And I'm like,
it's
what?
like, wait a second.
Like, what?
Are you asking your husband to babysit his own child?
Yeah. And that was like a pet peeve of mine in the beginning. Whenever I would go to the gym, daddy's babysitting today. And I'm like, no, daddy is being a father because I didn't make the child alone.
He gets to make sacrifices too. You know, there was definitely a time where I was mentoring someone and, you know, she was saying that she couldn't even do an hour in her business because her husband was home and he couldn't watch the kids. I said, your husband, you've been home with your kids for the last 10 hours and your husband won't watch them for an hour? And she said, you know, and that was her struggle. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like,
but I feel like, and not to interrupt you, but it's like, that is my daily struggle when dealing with moms. And like, I feel like a lot of times, and is that women, they think that their only way, and I'm saying this because I've done that myself, and my husband had to basically like rub it on my face. I was always thinking that my way was best, that what I was doing was the right way. And then he was like, you need to let me do my way because these kids are mine too. And I don't want to harm them. Yeah. So that was almost like an epiphany moment for me. And I was like, hold on a second. He's right. He doesn't want to hurt the kids. His way is different, but it doesn't mean that he's wrong. It's just not my way. Right. So I started to leave the house and leave him with the kids. Like my son was like 3 weeks old and I'm like, later, I'm going to get my nails done. Off I went. And he had the kids, and slowly I started to become more comfortable leaving them with the kids. And it got to a point that I had to go to Germany for a week and leave him with both kids when my daughter was like 5 months old.
Wow.
So I think that like delegating and bringing your partner as a team player it's a huge part of it as well.
Yeah. And trusting that his way is going to be different. That's fine. But the kids, it's actually more beneficial for the kids to see a different way instead of just one way, you know, and it prepares them for more personalities, more relationship. And it's very, very healthy to have both relationships in their lives. And they, in a sense, have to be different because if it were the same, they wouldn't be learning anything.
Yeah,
you know?
No, I agree. 100% agree.
So powerful. Awesome. So where can everyone find you? I feel like, man, we should totally do another episode. I feel like there's so many more things we could talk about, but let's, where can people find you? What are your social media outlets? And, you have so much to offer from mindset, postnatal, prenatal, and so much more. So where can our listeners find you?
Thank you. So to find me, you can find me on the gram. I'm always there. I'm very good at answering DMs. I love to be in touch with my people, which is Nathalia Melo Fit, Nathalia Melo, Melo Fit. My website, same thing, Nathalia Melo Fit. And if you go on my website, if you're a mom or you want to become a mom or you're just somebody who enjoys training, I have a part on my website that it's free plans. And I have tons of free plans that you can choose from, like booty workouts, core workouts. I also have like the exact plan that I used after having my kids, meal plan, and workout plan that I used after having my kids that helped me getting back into shape with the progression of rehabilitation to more strength training. And website, Instagram. Yeah, these are pretty much like the places that people would be able to find me.
I love that. Such a servant heart. You guys, did you hear that? Free information on NataliaMelofit.com. You can find her on Instagram at Nathalia Melo. fit.com. We will, or sorry, fit.
No, yeah.
We'll have this all in the show notes, so we'll
Thank you.
probably be editing that part out, but that's where you guys can find her. I'm so excited, you guys. Really connect with her. She's an incredible woman from the inside out. I've known her for almost a decade, and it has been so amazing to watch you in your journey. This has been amazing, and I will definitely have you on again. I know we can go on and on and on. So have a great day, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.